moving over then on the defensive side here, we'll start just with the defensive line group. Pretty deep group. I know there's a lot of rotation going on with guys. Right now, number 8 in rushing defense, allowing just under three yards per rush, 90.1 or 91 basically yards per game allowed. Only have allowed 4 rushing touchdowns and are right now, or I think, our 13th in tackles for loss. So we're getting there. We're getting close. We're getting in the backfield. A lot of disruption. I think the numbers don't necessarily, in my opinion, highlight how well this group has performed. It seems like they're always just maybe a hair off, a step off from getting to the quarterback, and a lot of that's, I'm sure, game plan. They opposing offenses know it. They want to get it out quick, and they want to get the ball in their playmakers' hands. So, how have you seen this unit kind of perform this year, and what would be your kind of breakdown and grade for them so far?
Yeah, I think the grade would be very high. I love, the first thing you look at in football to me is, even though the game changes, I still think you have to be able to run the ball and you have to stop the run. And this team stops the run. I mean, they are very hard to run on. And I think the passing, secondary pass defense statistics can be skewed because they haven't played a quarterback yet that's worth a darn. But they've played some teams that can run the ball. And, Wisconsin comes to mind with Braylon Allen, Notre Dame, and they're stopping them. So, yeah, in terms of stopping the run, which I love to see, excellent. Pass rush, you need more sacks. More sacks cause fumbles, it cause turnovers. Now, last week, things look really good, but Iowa is, the number 131 offense in the country, and that's out of 131.
Yeah.
They are awful, beyond awful on offense. I mean, that score would have been lower if they had just run the ball up the middle every play. Never throw, ever. Run it up the middle 3 times. If you got to punt it all the way down to the other end of the field. That defense was pretty good for Iowa.
Yeah.
And then when you get it back, run it up the middle 3 more straight times, maybe off tackle. Maybe you get a first down and then punt it all the way down the other end of the field. CJ Stroud gave you 7 points, and then you lose 31-7 instead of 54-10, It was just ridiculous how horrible they were. So I throw that out. I mean, I throw everything out from Iowa. That offense is just worthless.
Yeah.
So, this week, this D-line, Penn State is really running the ball well this year. They got 2 young running backs, and they're good. So last year, they couldn't run the ball at all. So that's what they have to run the ball. They have to, or they're dead. They will not get enough points on the board if they have to depend on Sean Clifford to throw it 45 times. It won't happen. I mean, I think their ceiling anyway, offensively, I think it's probably 20, 21, and if they explode, maybe they get 28. But, this game needs to be a 26-24 game for Penn State. They can't get in a shootout or they're going to get shot. So, the Penn State or the Ohio State D-line needs to stop the run. Force Sean Clifford to beat you throwing the ball.
Yep. Yeah, and Nick Singleton has played really well this year. I think that offensive line for Penn State has played fairly well.
Really well.
For the majority of the year, and it's evidenced by some of the numbers that Singleton has been putting up and their ability just to kind of control that. But to your point, I think I've seen enough from this defense. I think one thing positive to take away from Iowa as well is yes, it's a terrible offense. That's what you're supposed to do to a terrible offense as well.
Yes.
Short of causing less turnovers, causing no turnovers, giving up 2 touchdowns, something like that, to give up a field goal in 60 minutes to a terrible offense, get 6 turnovers, 160 yards of offense. That's what a good defense should do to a really terrible offense. And so it wasn't. I don't know that you can take a ton away from how this team or how this unit would particularly play against a team like Penn State, who is significantly better offensively than in Iowa. But I do think they've stayed true to what we can expect from this team all year, and I think they'll be able to control the line of scrimmage. They'll be able to get in the backfield, get some tackles for loss, and kind of stimmy up Singleton in that run game and force it into Clifford's hands. Because to your point, I think too, that has to be at the forefront of Jim Knowles' mind as well, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Stopping the run has to be job one this week, and they'll take their chances
Yeah,
with Sean Clifford slinging it 45 times. They would
yeah,
love that.
I would
Penn
love it.
State would love to run it 40 times and pass it
Yeah,
20 times. They'd be thrilled. Control the ball, keep it away from Ohio State, run the ball down their throat, out physical. It's
hmm
the same game plan. It's the Michigan game plan, it's the Oregon
yep,
game plan, it's the Nebraska game plan from last year, Notre Dame this year. You know, that's their path to victory. It's slim.
yep. Yeah, I think
They
it's
have to control it on the ground, play keep away, and out physical and beat down Ohio State.
yeah.
And last year we saw it happen. It's going to be tough to do this year for them.
Yeah, and I think it's a good barometer too for what we would potentially also see from Michigan later on in the year too, because
Exactly.
it is the exact
Exactly.
same ideal,
Yep.
right? Michigan doesn't
Yes.
want JJ McCarthy or Cade McNamara to have to throw 40 times to get a
No.
win.
No.
So
No.
this could be a really good foreshadowing of this team and how we handle what happens come November 26th as well.
Yep.
But moving back to the linebacker unit, I think most improved unit by far from last year's team. Tommy Eichenberg playing out of his mind all year. Steel Chambers playing really well. Cody Simon, flashed a few times in last week's game as well.
He did. He
And
did.
overall, I mean, I think outside of the wide receivers, this would probably be my pick for most valuable position group on this team. I've got him set up here at an A plus. 118 tackles amongst just those three alone, and
Yeah.
4.5 sacks with 2 interceptions in the lone defensive touchdown. Shout out! I called that on the message boards last week, but I digress. But how have you kind of enjoyed seeing this linebacking unit improve, and what would be your grade so far?
Yeah, the grade is definitely an A. And, just on a personal note, I was a Tommy Eichenberg, you know, fan club president heading into his senior year. Ohio State didn't offer him until I think it was September or October, and I wanted that guy offered, in the summer.
Mhm.
I was totally into Tommy Eichenberg being the player that we're seeing right now. And he wasn't that player last year. He wasn't very good last year. He was okay.
Yeah,
But this year, I mean, he's an All American to me. And this is the player that I saw in high school. And this is the player I projected him to be out of high school. Somebody that if you run up the middle, he's going to get you. And if you run wide, he can go sideline to sideline. He's not a 2-down linebacker, but he's a 3-down linebacker. You don't take him off the field against a passing team or in passing situations. He's great in coverage. So he is, just maximizing his ability. He's so smart. He's so tough. He's such a way better athlete than people believe him to be. So quick and so smart.
hmm
He's the AJ Hawk to me.
yeah,
In the Ohio State linebacking core. So yeah, Steel Chambers, Cody Simon, both have flashed, but this has been the Tommy Eichenberg show. And if he continues to play like this the rest of the way, he'll be the defensive player of the year in college football.
yeah. I think it was somebody, maybe it was Kirk, but I remember over the summer the comparison to AJ Hawk coming out, and I was skeptical at first,
Yeah, I
but
was too. And I love the guy, and I was skeptical. I didn't
yeah,
see it last year.
he's
I see it
he's
now.
yeah, he's shown out. He's proven to be the captain. If quarterback is the most important position, in college football or in all of sports, linebacker is likely, I would say, the one of the most premier positions, on a defensive side of the ball, especially if that person is also, the captain on the field, the guy that Jim Knowles is entrusting to
Yep.
run the defense through him, and he's shown that he can more than capable that he can do that and that he can do it at a high level. And so I definitely think they're going to be really impactful. I think that they'll be able to track the running backs pretty well as it goes, and close those gaps as they need to help out the defensive line and keep this in Sean Clifford's hands, if you will. So I see that as an overall win here for us as well. And then looking back at the final group here, defensive backs. I had it split cornerbacks and safeties originally because I grade them very differently in how they've played this year, but they've had their ups and downs. They've played well at times. They've played less than well at times. But how have you graded this position group so far this year from what you've seen?
Yeah, I'm probably with you. I think the safeties have been excellent. And I love Ronnie Hickman. Ronnie Hickman's a player that I was a little skeptical of coming out of high school. Once you pat yourself on the back for how smart you were on Eichenberg, then I wasn't all that impressed with Ronnie
Yeah.
Hickman. I thought he was a tweener. I didn't think he could play safety, and I didn't know if he could be physical enough and big enough to play linebacker, and I was wrong. Ronnie Hickman is the guy that every week when I watch Ohio State and I go to do a report on Ohio State, that guy sticks out every single week to me. He does things. I mean, he is a great football player, and he's going to be an NFL player too for a long time. So, really impressed with him. Lathan Ransom is really staking his claim to a guy that has to be on the field all the time.
Yeah.
You can't take him off the field. You don't need to alternate him with Josh Proctor or whatever you want to. He has to be out there. The McAllister kid is kind of the Jim Knowles coach on the field kind of guy. He's been good. And, he's made some big plays too. The corners have to play better. They have to play better. And they were really good last week, but, they have to be really good this week. Okay. They're going to be under fire this week. They're going to have to stand tall, and make plays because Penn State's going to have to throw. And then that's part of the Ohio State plan is to force Penn State to throw. Well, if you're forcing Penn State to throw, then your corners better be able to step up and be really good. So not that I think the Penn State receivers compare to the Ohio State receivers because they don't, but, we've seen other lesser receivers get open this year on the corners.
Yep.
So they need to be really good this week.
Yeah, and I think it's always been kind of my take throughout the year as well. Like they've been in really great position. They haven't really been burned by anybody. They're usually right there. And the biggest kind of drawback from the cornerbacks has just been not playing the ball. And so I'm curious to see kind of over the last few weeks with the bye week, Iowa and seeing kind of how the coaching staff has been able to kind of address some of those issues that they saw earlier in the year, and get that kind of worked around so that those guys are looking back for the ball. They're in great positions. Now all you got to do is finish, and you gotta attack it. And to have 0 interceptions from your cornerback room, not ideal, but I think I'm confident in the coaching staff that they've kind of addressed that. I know it's been top of mind, I'm sure, for them. So we'll be really curious to see how Denzel Burke kind of performs, especially, and see if he can get back to his 2021 self as well.
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
yeah, you gotta put him on an island and have faith in him.
Yeah, they have to come through just like any other position group on the field, and that's an important one, man. The corners, because you're out there in front of, you're naked in front of everybody. So, the D tackles can kind of hide a little bit. When the D tackles get beat on a play or make a mistake, it's usually a first down. When the corners get beat, again, the Penn State band is going to be playing within 2 seconds. So, they have to be better this week. And that's, no secret there.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised to see Ohio State's defense right now is 10th in passing defense efficiency. So granted, what level of competition have we played? But
yeah, I mean, when Arkansas State and Toledo are the 2 best passing teams you faced, that they're going to get they will get tested this week because I think the game plan has to be to force Sean Clifford to throw. So you're going to force that dude to throw. You better be able to cover those receivers.
Yeah, I'll call an interception from one of them this week. I think it's bound to happen. So
that would make Ryan Day very happy.
Maybe wishful thinking or the optimist in me, but
he would take 2 or 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe the safeties can make up for the other one though. They've been on top of that. So one of the last tier statistics that I had, actually a couple. So special teams was the other position group that I wanted to kind of give a grade for. And one stat that I saw, Noah Ruggles right now is 25th in total points scored in all of college football. So one of the top 25 scorers that you wouldn't think if if you don't know any better. But made all of his extra points. Only missed, I think it was the first field goal of the year
Yeah.
that he missed. So 6 of 7. He's not asked to kick a lot of field goals, which
No.
is good news if you're a Buckeye fan. But he's definitely played at par, if not better than what he was last year, and glad he was able to kind of transfer in and take over that room as well.
Yeah, no doubt. To be that high up in scoring in top 25, and he doesn't get a lot of threes.
Yeah,
He gets a lot of ones. So
yeah,
you got to have a lot of ones to get up that high. So yeah,
yeah.
he's solid, dependable. I mean, the only time you really notice kickers is when they're shaky
Hmm.
and you're scared to death when they come in and have to make one. That guy, there's no worries with that guy. He's about as close to automatic as there is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Jesse Mirko too is
Yeah.
another just incredible
Yes.
weapon to have because of the amount of times he's able to pin it, deep, either inside the 10, inside the 5. He's got some great spin on it. And hey, if he needs to run it for the first down because he sees the lane, you know, he can do that. Maybe he can show CJ a little bit of how that might work. But the other last year stat here before we go, to the point here, as we've kind of talked about all these position groups, I think going into an environment like Happy Valley, one of the biggest keys is going to be how both teams perform on third down. And so I took a second and looked up the conversion percentages here for both teams. Penn State right now is 99th in third down conversion. They're converting 35%. Ohio State right now is second in third down conversion defense. So 24.5% allowed on third down. So
Yeah.
that bodes well in our favor there. And then Ohio State eighth in third down conversion, converting 52.4%. Penn State defense is 34th in third down conversion, allowing 33.8. Um,
But I think to add to that, I think last week against
yep,
Iowa, I think Ohio State was 3 for 13, if my memory
I
is
think you're right.
correct.
Yeah, I think you're
They
right.
weren't very good on third down last week, and a lot of that was not being very good on first down. They were
Yep.
behind the chains. They had so many 2nd and 9s and 2nd and 8s, and you'd much rather have those 2nd and 3s. So that's a big thing for Ohio State. Yeah, and Penn State. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? If Ohio State can get them off the field, they're just not going to score much.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Even, like I said, there's no way they're going to score over 30 points. And it's tough to keep Ohio State under 30.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like I say, if Ohio State can be successful third down defense against Penn State, then Penn State has no chance because they don't have a
Yep.
lot of guys that are going to take it 60 yards in one play.
Yep.
They need to sustain drives, move it down the field. And if Ohio State's knocking them off the field on third down, then Penn State's dead.
Yeah.
They're
And
dead.
for Penn State last week too, I think they had some similar comparisons to Minnesota, who had to that point been playing really well on third down,
Right.
and they were able to control that down, and we saw what happened on the scoreboard. So I think not being a night game obviously helps with that. The whiteout environment is definitely one that assists the home team on those third down plays. So I think that's going to be in our favor compared to what they faced with Minnesota. But something to keep an eye on as well. If Ohio State's clicking on third down the way that we're accustomed to, then I think it could get ugly again pretty quickly for this team in Penn State. But that's going to do it for us, Bill. As always, thank you for joining. Appreciate the insight, the conversation. Always a pleasure.
All right, man. My pleasure.
Take it easy.
You too.